Yeah.
and tell me how you're doing. I think
I'm doing. Oh,
well,
go ahead.
hold on before you answer that. We've been talking about like you're kind of on you're in a spot where you need to really what's the word?
Shit or get off the
Yes.
pot.
Well, yeah, that was the simple way of putting it. You know, you're in
Yeah.
that space of like, well, should I or shouldn't I or can I? I don't know if I can handle it. And honestly, when you know you're when people get to much higher sizes and shapes, this isn't it's you're really looking at a life of permanent physical um limitation, you know, and
Yeah.
limitation is relative, right? Because it's not like you're paralyzed, it's not like you can't walk, it's not like, you know, so that is a very relative definition,
Yeah.
right? So it's a really a matter of adapting and adjusting, and that's where I find people have a very difficult time. It's very difficult for people to let go of the idea that their physicality of the body they're in could isn't going to improve, especially when it was self caused,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So there's also feelings of like, oh crap, would never have done this if I knew that this was not going to get fixed. Or if I knew, not that I wasn't going to fix it, that there is no fix to this that doesn't require I suffer, right? Because you could fix
Right.
it, it just means you suffer. Anyway, so you're
Yeah.
it's can take some hard contemplation. Anyway, so where are you at right now? How are you doing?
Yeah. Contemplating that exactly.
Okay.
And realizing that there is no real way to fix it unless I want to continue in, in the dark place forever.
Well, and the hard part is isn't that how you've gotten to be
Yes.
where you are? Because that dark place, you know, you can get temporary relief from that dark place by eating.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
so then it promotes the body's weight gain, which then promotes, because that is something that you will not and cannot accept. It promotes going back into the dark place of dieting, which eventually is fatiguing and it's separating and really affects you psychologically, which is the really fixed by eating. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Horrible cycle.
It is a terrible cycle. And
Yeah.
it's really sad.
Yeah. It is.
But at the same time, it's really forgivable and understandable, right? So look at the
Yeah.
animal part of us and look at the brainwashed aspect of this. You know, you're holding on to the brainwashing aspect of it,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
right? That actually is what's activating and agitating this animal aspect of it. So the
Yep.
animal in you is like, I need to feel comfortable with food. I need to feel confident with food. I need to feel like I have enough food. But yet that
Yep.
goes in direct conflict to the brainwashing or the programming of you have thinness is the only option for you to be valued and loved. So where are you at with it right now?
Um. Gosh. My hormones are so messy right now. I'm really struggling.
Well, are you?
But I am realizing, and seeing a lot more how this has been caused by the want to be thinner.
Yeah, that is the
So that,
cornerstone of it. It's
yeah,
a,
and then I had listened to the video you just posted last week of the woman who kind of reconciled her heart with her mom, and you were talking about how people cope like a child, where you go into, I don't know, like excess eating or, shopping or all those different things when you're not, like not fully recovered. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
so
that's
that was
yeah.
a gauge for me, to show myself that I wasn't really in the free space
Mm-hmm.
again.
Well, do you feel well, let's how is your relationship with food been?
I have been, gosh, I'm like tearful. I've been still kind of overeating. Not like it used to be, but I'm eating more than feels comfortable.
Yeah.
You know.
Would you say that feeling of freedom that you had when we first started is gone?
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's not all or nothing because you aren't binging. I think when we talked last, you kind of relapsed into a binge phase.
Yeah, but not like it used to be, like where I would like plan out and have this huge, happy situation that was going to happen.
Yeah,
it's
where
never.
it was...
I had not planned anything until this last weekend. This last weekend, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get my favorite restaurant takeout, and then I have this chocolate in the house, and I'm gonna have that, and I was just kind of like, I feel like at a vulnerable point. I'm exhausted. I'm not sleeping well.
Yeah.
And then I'm just me and my husband are still having issues.
So would you say the conflicts you're having with your husband, or how your relationship is with your husband, is why you needed or felt the desire to plan and
No, I think more so the escape of feeling like an asshole.
Okay, so hold on a second. Just hold on a second, because what you're describing is a binge, which is how we, it's planned. People plan them all the time.
Yeah. In
general. And if you didn't plan it, you plan it the moment you decide you're going to do it, which is right now.
Yeah.
So all binges are planned for the most part. Right?
Yeah.
And so what would bring someone to planning a binge?
Oh, I guess, thinking that I would be able to fix it eventually.
Yes, very true. Yeah. But before that, why would you feel the need to, what are you getting out of the binge?
That temporary relief.
Or would you say compensation? You feel compensated? It's like something to make...
Like I deserve it or something.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like you're planning it because you feel deserved of it. I'm going to go to that restaurant. I'm going to get this chocolate.
Actually, yeah.
Okay, so you're pissed off and feeling like a victim. That's what that tells me.
Oh, God, yep.
So...
Yep. With my husband and everything.
Yeah, and so can you see then why you would be like, well, I'm a victim, and the only way for me to feel like I'm getting anything out of this is I'm going to go eat some food. This tells me as well that you've been feeling deprived of food. So have you been dieting? Now, when I say dieting, have you been restricting foods?
I think after I kind of lost my freedom, I've been trying to eat to hunger by myself without like...
Okay, are you doing it because you do not want to gain weight?
Yeah.
So that's not eating to hunger, that's the hunger scale diet.
Oh, God.
Okay. So the hunger scale can be made into a diet by using it to get rid of your terrible feelings about your weight. So you can take something as innocent and as easy as eating to biological hunger and distort it into some emotional deprivation. So what'll happen too is the hunger scale will be more restrictive. You'll notice that your lenience with the hunger scale goes away and it gets more strict. Like if you get full at any point, you've ruined it. So it's approached like a restrictive diet, even though it's not. But it is made into one.
Wow.
Is that what's happened, or is that...
Yeah, I think, definitely, because yesterday I'm hungry like every 2 hours because I'm pregnant, so, I'm trying to make sure I'm not, like, overeating at every meal, which makes me overeat at every meal.
Yeah. Well, that tells me you're afraid to gain weight, so it has a lot to do with your weight. So it's really not afraid to, overeat, it's afraid to gain weight. And obviously overeating is the route to gaining weight, but the fear you have of gaining weight or wanting to not gain weight for pregnancy, which is a common thing. I'm assuming if you've been to a doctor, that's what they've said. Maybe you shouldn't gain any weight. This happens all the time. Right?
I mean, they said if I gained any, it should be less than 10 pounds.
Yeah, so you're maybe trying to hold yourself to that. You know, all of this is a great opportunity for you to observe it. If you're going to get out, if you're going to recover, you got to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's what I realized this morning because I was feeling pissed. You know, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have this session number 1 again today.
Oh,
you know,
I don't feel that way. I want you to know I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah, that's what I realized later. I was thinking, you know, I need to stop being mad at myself.
Yeah, you've made a lot of flipping progress.
I know everything, and I should be here and there, you know, but...
Oh, honey, I have some clients that I've been working with for years. For years. I have that I adore, and it is, everybody has their personal, I don't want to say it's like a journey. But it is. It's like, you know, and everybody comes into it with the same belief systems, the same victimization, the same narcissism to certain degrees of it. Everybody has their certain degree of it. Right. And so what it takes to recover is something you have to be willing to do. And what is it going to take for you to be willing to do it? Is so the recipe in terms of the quantities of everything is so different. Like what this is going to take in terms of humility, in terms of willingness to fail, in terms of, you know, letting go of your thin ideology, what it meant, how intense that thinness is important to you. All those things are unique to you.
Yeah.
Same stories everybody else's. Right? That's why you can make so much connection with other people listening, because you're like, they sound like me. I might not have the same issues with my mom, but I certainly do with my mother-in-law or my father, or, you know.
Right.
Because we're so human, and so part of this is very connected to just being human. And just where you're at in the process. And obviously, this is the thing. In terms of recovery for time, in terms of time, the cost is intense pain. The more pain than you'll ever even imagine exists.
I want that so bad, and I feel like I can't bring myself to it.
Well, then stop wanting it. Your wanting isn't ready. So it might not be as painful, but it's going to take a little more time for you to get there. And you know what? What is it? Do you want to get there? Do you want to get there?
Yeah.
Okay. So you just need to let the process happen and stop forcing it. You know, this is not a race. And I will tell you, it comes down to, you know, what is the best route to recovery? Is it the direct, most painful route, or is it a slower direct route that is, you know, you ease off the pedal, right? Rather than completely stop. Everybody's different. At some point you stop. The end result is stop, right? The end result is exit, eject, right? That's the end result. But you know, what you're doing is you're staying within what you're comfortable with.
Oh, God.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing.
I know.
And so you need to let go of this idea that I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes too, people need to suffer. They need to suffer a little bit more to go, oh yeah, she's right. I can't hold on to hope for that. Because it's staying in the same place. So you realize I can't hold on to hope. You know, I think this is where we've been for a while.
Yeah.
You're just holding on to hope. Am I wrong? Because I could be wrong.
No, it's not. I hate it. I feel like well, that's not taking responsibility. I was about to say that I feel like I'm not in control of that, but I am.
See, progress.
I can't stop.
Listen to you. I'm telling you, there's been a lot of progress. So
yeah.
You'll never be where you were before we started. You'll never be that.
Yeah, that's a miracle.
Yeah, I would agree. So don't discount that. You're discounting that as if that miracle is now sucky. Don't do that. You know, you have made a commitment to this process to yourself, and you financially committed to me. and you've continued this process, you continue to face it and just keep on going. At some point, it's going to go click. It's over, and it may take every ounce of suffering it takes for that moment to arise.
Yeah.
So that's why we say let's suffer some more. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're already doing it. It's not like you're doing something you haven't done before. This is no different than the suffering you've had in the past, except for it's not half as bad. It's just still bad, you know?
Yeah.
It's still dark. It's just not as, hopeless. At least there's some little hope in here. But, the misery that you're in, am I describing it right? Would you say there's kind of an internal misery that's going on?
You're miserable.
Whose fault is it if you're going to place blame? Really go into it. Don't say what you think I want to hear. I want you to really go into it. Who is it that is at fault? Is it your mom?
No.
Okay, so I'm just throwing names out there because there's someone out there that is the cause of your pain. Is it someone that molested you? Is it your father? Is it an uncle? Is it a teacher? Is it high school buddies? Is it a boyfriend?
I guess,
is it religion?
Being real, I feel like it's, that's true. I feel like it's like a community of everybody around me, actually. That, thinks that I should be a certain way or look a certain way,
Yeah. Yes. And if you recover, is that going to change?
No, that's what I'm trying to, I've been trying to come to terms with myself,
Well, let's come to terms with that.
These people.
I want you to absorb this in. Let's come to terms with it.
Okay.
I'm going to say it again, and I want you to feel it and go into the radical truth of it. Do not hide from the answer. If you recover, is the world around you, are the people around you going to change?
No.
Do you want them to have to change for you to recover?
No.
Oh, no shit, right? Because if you have to, then the pressure's on them.
Yeah.
It's like, do you really want someone else to take responsibility for this? Because that's like saying I have to wait for you and I'm sitting in hell waiting for you to figure it out so that I can get free.
Yeah, and then that'll never, ever happen.
No, and then you just are resentful. You resent. You're constantly resenting. Why can't he do this? I need it to be perfect. I need him to do this. It'll help me get out. So you might be doing that.
Yeah. I think so, because every time I feel like I'm close to just, whatever, let it go, I feel like I see somebody's face, like my brother or my doctor or my husband or, whoever.
Okay, so I want you to be aware that there is no way their opinions are ever going to change of you.
Yeah.
They're not. And so we hold those still. Those are no longer avenues to manipulate or to try to change to feel better. If you think about it, you could see, well, I've been trying to feel better through a bunch of different, I reach out to different people and different concepts, like even just trying to lose weight is trying to reach out, trying to, fix your husband, fix him. That's reaching out. Going to a new restrictive church is a way to reach out. You try to find this is going to be it. If this changes, I'll feel better. And you fantasize about it. There's this in the fantasy. If that does make you feel better, in the fantasy, it would make sense why you would want to control things like that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And all the while, it's like my mind that needs to change.
Well, you're reaching outside of yourself to feel fulfilled. And so the problem with that is because it is dependent on something that isn't yours or you or within your will or within your conscious reality, you have to manipulate or manage what's going on to intrinsically feel. The sense is that by doing these things, it will feel intrinsically fulfilling. Problem is it isn't intrinsic at all. It's extrinsic. And so it's like trying to add a fake limb to your body.
Yeah.
It's like saying, like a crutch. that's not a real limb of the body. That's an extension that is extrinsic or external. Makes sense? A crutch can never function the way a knee and a hip can. But it can replace certain specific moves, right? So you can imagine, when you're trying to use a crutch to mimic something that is organic and curvilinear. Curvilinear means dynamic and variety of different angles and, like a hip socket.
Yeah.
You're always going to feel disappointed, and you're going to have to be almost obsessed about what it is that you think is going to replace your hip, like a crutch.
Wow.
I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm using a physical ailment for you to feel, it would feel similar. Like I'm trying to feel better about this damning, situation to who I am. And I think my husband will meet these standards. And then when he does that, then we will fit a level of approvability, and that will fulfill me. So he becomes the means to an end, as if he's your bitch.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that's what you're doing, but this is common.
Yeah, it is.
I did that with my husband when we first got married and I was super mentally ill. I wanted him to convert to the religion I was raised in so that my parents would approve of me.
Yeah.
So I could do what I had to do to get married in this religion to make sure God loved me. So it had nothing to do with him. And it wasn't about him doing what was right for him. It was about him doing what was right for me.
Yeah.
And
that just causes them to be like on guard all the time.
Oh, and he was like, no. No, he grew up around this religion enough that he knew this, and he was like, no, Robin, I'm not going to be with you if this is the way you're going to be. You need to like me for me. And if you can't accept me the way I am, this isn't going to go. And he was very adamant about it. So there was no lenience. So again, best thing ever, because it forced me to ask, do I really love him?
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be the knight in shining armor that I always, since I was raised and programmed to want this type of armor, or the knight in shining armor. I was told what I needed to want, and I internalized that, and I wanted it, right? And he did not match.
Yeah.
I had to ask, do I really love him? Even though he will never convert to this religion, and I will be exposed to family criticism, judgment, and God's damnation.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's so huge.
It was massive.
Yeah.
And we eloped. Oh, it was the hardest thing ever. I go back to that, and I just felt like shame, the deepest degrees of shame. Anyways, so you really have to look at why you're going outside of yourself, and if you do, what that means. Again, if you're, do you want someone else to be in charge of your...
No, I realized we went away for a couple days this last weekend, and we got into a huge fight during that time. And at the end of it, he's like, I'm leaving, I'm out of here, and I just went into this total like depression, like I'm gonna have to kill myself, I can't do this. I don't have a job, I'm pregnant, I have a little boy, and nobody can count on me. And when I came out of that, when I was like, what the hell am I doing? Going through all this in my mind, and I realized how much I'm depending on him,
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking he is, like I can't take care of myself. I can't do anything without him. And I'm just like making him responsible for everything. Just so I don't have to be,
Yes. It's called codependency.
Yeah.
So did you get a chance to really think what you would do if this was over? How you would move forward?
Yeah. After, I had a chance to really think about, how things would work, and it would work out. I would,
It
we
would work
would
out.
survive.
You would be just
Yeah.
fine. You would just be just fine, and actually probably take care of yourself the way you should have with this marriage anyways.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought too. Like this would, even open up like a second, not like a second chance, but make me realize how things should have been, or.
Well, what you would need to do moving forward with the next relationship, because the next relationship, even if you stay with your current husband, is different. Like
Yeah.
your relationship isn't going to stay if it stays the same.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've often thought is, if I were to get divorced or my husband were to die, how would I be in my life without him? And how would I be if I ever started a new relationship? And why wouldn't I do that now? And why would I be different with a different relationship? Shouldn't I be the way I should be or want to be with the one I'm with? Meaning, if I would be kinder and gracious and more loving and more open-minded about the next person I'm going to be with, why wouldn't I be that way and give that honor to the person I'm with? Why don't they deserve that?
Wow, yeah. Yep.
So there needs to be a radical shift in your relationship with your husband if it's going to continue, because clearly he's not going to tolerate the way it is. And neither should you, because you're miserable. Yeah. You're miserable the way it's going too.
Yeah.
So why not do the things that you should be doing to exit out of the relationship, and the things you should have been doing the whole time? And the things that you would continue to do in your next relationship. You should do them no matter what the outcome of this relationship is. There are certain things that have to change. You have to look at it and go, what are the things that have to change? Whether we stay together or not, what has to change, and what is within my reach? You can't make him change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not the answer, right? That might be what you've been doing, is kind of like sitting back and trying to manipulate and control everything outside of yourself, and never really going into yourself and making those intrinsic changes that you need to make.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yep. Yeah.
So how do you feel overall after is that when you were making your plans to go binge? I'm going to go here and I'm going to go there.
No, that happened after. Well, he had something he needed to go away for this weekend. So when he left, I went, and then my parents were watching my little boy, so I was on my own to party. What I thought was a party, So yeah, I guess it did all come with it, because I feel like I'm still kind of mad at him about that fight, and I just don't feel the same.
Okay, so what are you mad at?
I'm mad. I guess I kind of realized some things during it that I wouldn't tolerate in somebody else.
Okay,
I don't know. I just can't even. It sounds stupid when I say it out loud. It's like he acts like a teenager. It's like having another child. But I think that's because of the way I treat him.
Like you're on above him?
I guess so.
So you can have compassion for why he would maybe act out?
Yeah.
That's important for you to see, that he's acting out like a teen or a kid because that's how he's being treated.
Yeah. Yep.
So tell me how you would act out. How would you be if you were being treated like a child by your spouse?
I do the same thing when he does it to me.
So why are you angry at him? What do you think what does anger serve in this? Does it serve, he better apologize to me, so I'm going to make him say he's sorry?
I guess so.
Yeah, that's power. You want power over him.
Yeah.
What would happen if you apologized?
I did, but I'm still holding the
For
anger,
that.
so I guess it's not real.
Yeah, I was going to say for that. You need to apologize. Like, from the heart, too. Not from the trying to manipulate him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you're giving me consequences, and I don't want those consequences, so I'm sorry. Really think about it, what you have remorse over. What do you have remorse? Like, if let's just follow me here. I'm going to take you into a thought process. Let's just say this is over. He's already talking to a divorce lawyer, okay?
Okay.
And the marriage is ending. There's no reconciliations. What do you wish to say to him? As a person, as an individual person you have history with and children with.
I guess I would apologize for trying to make him different than he is, not allowing him to be who he really is.
Yeah, because if you were to start a new relationship, wouldn't you do that with the next person?
Yeah.
You would give the next person a lot of freedom, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd pick and choose your bullshit.
Yeah. Well.
Would you make the next person be so, would you make the next person take care of your problems emotionally?
No.
I don't know if I said that right, but
I mean, I think I get what you're saying, like we had talked about before, where you put all your stuff out there ahead so you don't attract somebody who's not really for you,
Yeah, so for example, if you're bored and he's going out with his friends, okay, you going to be pissed at him for going out with his friends?
No.
See what I mean? That's kind of immature and juvenile. Shouldn't you entertain yourself?
Right, yeah.
Is that your boyfriend's job?
No.
Doesn't mean you don't like to spend time with each other, but let's just say he's out watching a football game with his friends. Should he have to come home because you're lonely? Not saying that's what you've done, but that's an example.
Yeah, I've done stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's super juvenile, right? Would you do that with the next person?
No. It's embarrassing to even think about that.
Yeah, but think about that type of treatment of another human being. That person is your slave, essentially. They become a slave to your emotional, immaturity.
Wow, yep.
So you never really mature.
Yeah.
So if you got divorced and it was over, what would you do when you're all bored?
Entertain myself.
Yes, oh my God. You'd have to think of things to do. You'd have to grow up. You'd have to be independent. You'd have to take care of yourself. You'd have to use your creative mind. You'd have to go outside of your boundaries and try new things.
Wow. And I could do all that now and stop torturing both of us.
Yes, you could, and you should, and let's imagine who should be apologizing here. Let's just go into that.
Yeah.
Is your marriage going to last the way that it is functioning at this point?
No.
So, you need to prepare to end it. But in preparation to end it, why would you wait to start becoming independent? You should become independent now.
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, if you're going to get divorced, is maybe you should start loving your husband or your soon-to-be ex-husband as a person. He's someone's son.
Yeah.
You have a son.
Yeah.
How would you feel if your son married someone like you and was treated this way?
That'd be awful.
Wouldn't you say you need to be real, you need to be yourself, and don't let someone take you as a slave? You're not someone's slave.
Wow.
She should take care of herself. Meaning emotionally, you know?
Yeah.
She should get help. You know? Think of the difference, you know? And why wouldn't you treat him the way you would want your son to be treated? And you realize what that does when your son sees you treat your husband this way. What do you think that does?
Oh my God.
You go the direction of the functional. You know, if you treat his dad like an important person who has independent beliefs and feelings and likes and wants and desires, and you want to support that in him, that have nothing to do with you. Again, this takes that you do it for yourself, to then find value in that for yourself, for you to want this for others, especially someone like your husband. Take care of yourself. Do what's right for you.
Yeah. Wow.
I have a feeling this has a lot to do with, obviously you have a severe for fear of abandonment.
Yes.
And because you have a very severe sense of inadequacy.
Yep.
And so that extremism and radicalism in your fear of abandonment has to do with how needy you are.
Oh my God.
That's not a criticism. It's just a sign that that's what needs to be strengthened here. The weak link is that you don't feel you can handle it. So that means your neediness is much higher. And what happens is if he says, I'm not doing that, you feel, oh, he's not, that's love. He's supposed to do this for me. This sounds like codependency.
Yeah.
Codependency, dependency is somewhat normal when we depend on each other. I depend on my husband to make, he has the insurance and he's got the 9-to-5 job, and, he depends on me to be here to pick up the kids and get them to where they're going to go. And my income pays for food. And, so we are dependent on each other as a team, right? We play different roles. But codependency is when you depend on someone so much emotionally that it creates emotional insecurity and weakness to the point where you need the other person to function.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay.
That's how it's been this whole time.
Usually the enabler or the person that's doing that gets something out of it. They get something like feeling needed, feeling wanted. So then to some degree, you're both looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he was that way, he would start to feel insecure if you got a job and started making your money, taking care of yourself. He'd be like, shit, she doesn't need me.
Yeah.
So wanting someone to need you beyond and to some degree to where they can't function on their own is also just as dysfunctional.
Yeah, it is.
And so your marriage isn't going to last if things don't change. So maybe this hard time in your marriage is a wake-up call for you. Who knows if he's going to have a wake-up call? He's clearly done with this shit. He's verbalizing that.
Yeah.
To where you need to stop making your problems someone else's. And he needs to stop enabling you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he can't enable you if you don't ask him to be or play that role.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Would you say that this is very much at the core of your recovery, like this right here?
Yeah, it's a huge roadblock.
So this could be why this is taking so goddamn long.
Yeah, because the Disneyland trip that we had before Christmas, I felt like I was, nearly recovered. I felt like at the beginning of that was perfect, and then I had a fight, and I have never been able to find any freedom since then.
Okay, so this says a lot about your recovery is based on the condition of your marriage.
Yeah.
So you got to separate recovery from your marriage. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest you do is go through the process of divorce emotionally.
Okay.
That does not mean that you make your husband an enemy. It doesn't mean that you're a victim of your husband. It means that you are looking at yourself as if you are independent, which is the way you should see yourself when you're married.
Right.
There's a healthy boundary between me and my husband, for example. Very healthy boundary around what I need to take care of for myself emotionally and to some degree physically. And where he needs to be responsible for his emotions and perceptions.
Yeah.
A lot of the conflict we have is when he has an assumption about something and I have an assumption about something, and we project it on each other. And then we spend like a freaking day fighting about and trying to figure out where things went off.
Yeah, that's
but it has nothing to do with he's not doing this for me. You treated me this way. No.
Yeah.
No, there's no, at least that I'm aware of. Because I could be, I'm human too. But in general, my emotions are mine. My perceptions are mine. My beliefs are mine. None of them are his responsibilities.
That's what I need to remember.
Oh, it's the best thing ever.
Like when I get angry, I'm like, you're making me angry.
Oh, yeah, no one does that. You're making yourself angry, and your anger is actually used to manipulate him. You're trying to have power and dominance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so you might want to check yourself when you say you make me angry. That is extremely dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Because nobody makes you angry. They don't have anger and then inject it into you.
Right.
Because that's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
No. Your issues and your perceptions and your need to manipulate people. And that's what anger is. It's a manipulative emotion to try to fear someone into doing what you need them to do. So it's like the power position. It's the abuser position versus the victim.
God. Yeah.
So all this is really useless information, to be honest with you. What's going to change any of this? What has to be?
Do it.
Well, how do you do that? You need to look at this real hard. How is this going to change? What happens, for example, if you go to your husband and say, I have been treating you like a slave, and I have made you responsible for my emotional immaturity.
I feel like at this point you wouldn't even believe me because I apologize all the time.
Well, what if you say, you know what, I apologize all the time and I have to admit that I only do it to manipulate you to get you to come back to me?
Yeah.
Maybe you agree and say, you know what, I think we do need an emotional separation. I got to figure my shit out. I can't rely on you. Not because you're not reliable. It's because I need to take care of myself. It's not fair to make you or anybody else take care of me psychologically. I need more independence. I need to find out who I am. You know?
Yeah.
separate yourself emotionally. This does not mean you're separated physically. It doesn't mean that you're not married to him or you're not committed to him. You're not changing your commitment level to this person. You're just saying, I got to focus on me. And I can't afford to ask you to take care of me anymore. Emotionally. Do you stay at home?
Yeah.
So you don't have a job?
No.
So maybe what you need to do, really go into think about this, where you think the solution needs to be. Do you think getting a job is important? Is that going to do anything?
I just quit my job like 4 months ago.
So it's not necessarily going to save. You've had a job. This isn't a new.
Yeah.
Okay. So getting that isn't probably necessarily going to change anything. So where would you go next in terms of getting independence?
Taking care of my own stuff, I guess.
What is that?
Well, like my mind, my kids, my household, my part, instead of, blaming him for not being able to do everything. I don't know.
Okay, we'll get some clarity around that. I think that you need to maybe just think for a while about that answer and get clear about it. What do you expect out of him? You might want to consider marriage counseling.
Yeah.
That's not my specialty. I'm really good at relationship shit. In fact, I'm freaking awesome at how we relate to people. However, you might want to consider looking at codependency counseling.
Yeah.
Specifically in marriage counseling. So look for a counselor that has a good degree of both. Or do some reading. There's incredible stuff. There's some great books on codependency out there in marriage.
Yeah.
You need to do what you need to do to become more independent. And part of that could be letting him be himself.
Yeah,
giving him independence. Give him independence.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I'm saying this, he needs to be given independence, not you.
Yeah, that's the truth, because we've come from our entire relationship has been substance abuse and recovery from substance abuse, and that's how we met. We actually met on the streets like 24 years ago. So
it started with codependency.
Yeah. I was like teenager thinking that I was going to help this guy, and he was a meth addict, and then I became a meth addict, and it's been a wreck the entire time.
Well, the way you're relating to each other. I want you to take a step back, and I want to ask you in total and complete honesty, do you really love this person? Would you marry him again knowing what you know now? About him, not about your circumstances.
I don't know.
Okay, that tells me the answer's no. You just didn't want to say it. Am I off?
No.
Yeah.
No.
The answer's no. So it was a mistake. But you thought it would work out. Do you think that he deserves to be independent at this point?
Yes.
I think you should give that to him, and you need to be honest with yourself. You're trying to make something work with someone you don't like. So if that was your first instinct, would you maintain a relationship with this person? As friends. If you get divorced, would you still care about him?
Yes.
So your answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
Invested in his well-being.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you want him and another relationship to do well?
That makes me feel sick.
Okay, that's because you've taken ownership of him. Take a step back. Like, if you really love this person, so let's go into real love, heart-centered love. If you really care about him as an independent person, would you want him to be in a loving relationship?
Yes.
Okay, that's a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't necessarily think you have to get divorced unless you really don't like him.
No, it's not like that, really.
Okay, see there. Okay, so I think that's why I kept on going, just to kind of go. I kept on asking questions. You know, because
he is a good guy. He's like, he is a good guy. And he is good to me. This is me.
Okay. So let's go back into how you feel about him independent of you. You see how different you feel about him when he's totally independent of you.
Yeah.
When you take ownership of him.
Oh my God, that's so
he
disgusting.
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Notice that's how you feel about your body. That's how you feel about your family. That's how you feel about him. That's how you feel about your job. That's how you feel about your house. That's how you feel about this.
Oh my gosh.
The problem has nothing to do with him. It has to do with how you perceive yourself. Because the way you feel about him when he's your slave is really how you feel about yourself. Right? You feel that way about yourself. You're disgusted.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough. And how do you come to that criticism? Because you don't just feel that way. What standards are you holding him and yourself to?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Which ones are they?
Impossible ones.
Would you say, okay, so if they're impossible, who's honestly, where's the disgust coming from? Is it coming from you, him, or those impossible standards?
The impossible standards.
Yes, those as standards are disgusted.
Yeah.
Is he worth disgust? Again, get him separate from you.
No.
Is he really a disgusting person?
No, not at all.
Okay, now add your standards. Now is he disgusting?
Yes.
Okay. So is it him that's disgusting, or do you hold disgusting standards?
Yeah, I hold disgusting standards.
Yeah, and where is that program? Where did this program come from? Whose program are you holding on to that is full of darkness and disgust?
The devil. The diet industry, the stupid Instagram perfect people, and a whole mess of fakeness.
It's whatever you're worshiping.
Yeah.
So whatever you're worshiping is disgusting. You see what see when I add that? It's like, well, if that's what you're worshiping is disgusting, meaning it's disgusting everything that's not exactly what that is. So everything that does not match what that belief is disgusting. So you hold these beliefs of disgust about everything that exists other than the belief. So the belief is pure and clean, but it projects out disgust. That's called dogma, brainwashing, programming.
Wow.
Right? Like I used to hold a concept of God and religion in my head that was pure and complete, but it projected out from their disgust for everything as well.
Yeah, if you can't live up to it.
Exactly. But when you do live up to those things, you are a superior human being.
Wow. Yep.
So how do you get rid of the disgust?
eject.
Well, you have to you have
Okay.
to let go of what you get out of it. So what do you get out of those beliefs? Superiority.
Yeah.
That's what you're holding on to. So when we say you're holding on to shit, it's the superiority. I get superiority. I win. I'm proving to people I'm not a loser.
Yeah, and that is one thing. Like, I had the situation with my brother, and I keep going back to that. Okay, if I let this go, and then what if I have a heart attack, and then he's right? Like.
Then he's right. Who cares?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you
I'll
have
be,
to let go of
dead
being.
or in the hospital, and I'm gonna care whether he's right or
You
not.
have
Or...
to care. You have to let go of being right, because that's what you're actually holding on to, is your rightness.
Yeah.
You don't want to let go of being right.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to feel what it feels like to be wrong, and compare being wrong to holding on to being right. Which one's worse? Being wrong.
Oh, holding on to being right.
Right? Because now everything's disgusting in your rightness. Remember, the rightness is pure and white at the top, and then projected out from there is disgust for everything and wrongness.
Yeah.
So you live in a state of wrongness thinking that you're right. And it's just like the rightness is like, it's like the lens that everything is seen through, but all you see is wrongness.
Yeah.
Okay? So think of it like the lens. Your superiority equates to everything is inferior. Disgust. Being right is superior. So if that's the lens, then everything you see is wrong. You live in wrongness. Again, where's the wrongness? Well, it's in the being right.
Yeah.
So if you want to recover, you have to get rid of the lens, which is being right.
Yeah.
You're not correct. You've been wrong. You've been wrong this whole time. That's the funny thing.
That's why I feel so awful.
Well, because you judge it. You're judging it.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with being wrong? So what? You're wrong. You've made mistakes. In fact, you could say the pride in pretending you are right is where the most harm has been done to you.
Yeah.
Not your mistakes. It's pretending that they weren't mistakes or that you're not that. Like, having to hide from the wrongness is worse. Why can't you just be wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
So go back. Wrong. Don't you agree? Being exposed as wrong, does that last forever?
No, just that moment.
Yeah, that you just go, you're right. I was wrong. Oh my God. You were right. I have learned a hard lesson. And I am really learning about humility. And you know what's amazing is that the humility that goes into admitting this stuff is what gives you grace to not feel bad. To go, and I am still lovable. Even with all of this narcissistic douchebaggery, pride to the point where my entire life is falling apart, and my pride is causing it. My self-centeredism, all that shit, just to prove I was right.
Yeah, yeah.
In the end, it all failed. And I kept, and is that okay?
Yeah.
It kind of has to be okay. Because that's what's happening anyways.
Yeah.
So what if you're wrong? So if you are wrong, what are you going to go hide forever? Are you going to commit suicide? Like you were saying, I'm just going to kill myself. What's that do?
I know.
Instead, you'd rather commit suicide than admit failure. Isn't that both the same thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't you rather have humility and just admit it? Because at least then you still have you have the freedom then to move on with your life. You're no longer held hostage by your fear of being a failure. It's clear and obvious you're a failure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, because that's exactly what this is. I'm like waking up in the middle of the night worrying and thinking about all this crap.
And it really
And
comes
just
down
admitting
to
it.
it really comes down to the pride of I can't have this happen because they'll all find out. So
Yeah.
first of all, if your marriage fails, is that something to be ashamed about? Especially when you really tried hard the way you were aware you run this marriage the best you could with what you were aware of. You did. This whole time. The way you've been doing it, you thought this was the right way to do it. It was all that you knew.
Yeah.
You didn't know any different. Often marriages end, and as it is ending, that's when you learn about what you wouldn't do again. It had to end for you to get knowledge and to rethink what I would never do if I got another chance.
Yeah.
It took divorce for you to reconcile your problems.
Wow. Yeah.
Just saying. Is there something wrong with that? Look at your beliefs around marriage. I think that's another thing. Your pressure to stay married could be ruining your marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, and just afraid to be alone.
Yeah, and is there any stigma around divorce in your family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there is.
How much of that has to do with this?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They'll find out that I am inferior. I couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. They told us we shouldn't get married, and they were right.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out conversation. So you have to really look at where this controllingness of your husband is coming from. Do you not believe that he's capable? Do you believe, this is where I think maybe your insecurity with your own recovery, you might be projecting onto him.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's
he can't handle it.
Really look at, yes.
So you're treating him as if he can't handle it because you can't handle it.
Oh my God.
And
all the while I'm thinking it's him and there's something wrong with him and he's acting like a baby, but it's really me acting like a baby.
Yeah, and I just think again, I think you need to let him go emotionally, and you need to focus in on getting secure with yourself. Beauty of becoming insecure becoming secure with yourself is that you'll project that security onto others.
Yeah.
You can handle this. How important is it that you be given a safe place to recover? And if you fail and you struggle to where you feel that you are not being judged and criticized, that you are given grace and compassion to figure it out. How important is that?
Well, I thought it was super important, but it's not.
It's super important, to be honest with you. Could you imagine if in our work together I was pissed at you for struggling?
Oh, okay.
And judging you?
I could see
like,
that.
What is wrong with you? Why can't you figure this out? Imagine if that's my language with you.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay. Just keep that in mind. The fact that I'm giving you grace and space is a sign that I believe you can handle this. I truly believe it. I know you're going to come out of this. Otherwise, would I be patient?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I wouldn't be patient if I did not feel that you can handle this. And I do have clients that I get to where I'm like, they're not going to recover. And my patience just goes away. Because I'm human.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could see that too. And now, if I, in my relationships, when I'm thinking that, like, he can't handle it, or even my son, like my little one, and then I get short with them, or...
Yeah, controlling.
Because I'm trying to control. Wow. Oh, God.
Yeah. And
Oh, please help me.
you need to reconcile your own shit.
Yeah.
You have taken control over someone else's well-being, and you don't even know how to function with your own.
Yep.
Just think about that. You aren't even recovered yourself, but yet you're the controlling master of his recovery.
Oh my God.
So can you see why, if you aren't recovered, and I say that in love, okay?
Yeah.
And grace and compassion and
truth.
And total and complete like belief that you are on the path of recovery, okay? If can you see why then you would be extremely insecure with what he's doing?
Yeah. Yep.
He might be far, 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 far more recovered than you are. But yet you're the one who is like really insecure with his. And then the insecurity with his recovery has more to do with how you don't want to be judged by your family, right? Again, just look at like, I used my husband as an example of like why in reality I was really pressuring him to convert to this religion.
Yeah.
It had more to do with my fear of being criticized by my siblings.
Yeah. Yeah, I get some of that too, like the decisions he makes, and then my family will be like, "Oh, really?" Or, "Oh, I can't believe he's doing that," or yeah, so I can, yeah, that's not a healthy situation.
No, because you're honoring maybe someone who's ignorant, or when you look at your husband's decisions, is he doing it to harm people? Is he doing something that's just right for him? Or is it just not meeting the standards of the perfectionistic douchebaggery that the lens is shifting?
Yeah.
Make sense?
The
holier than thou standards of superiority.
Yeah, like we all have it all figured out, right?
Except for him.
Except for him, yep.
But yet he's like, being authentic.
Tweedledee. Yeah. Yep. How awful.
Well, you don't know any different?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got to go, my dear.